Hello, in this video you will learn how to draw energy flow diagrams for endothermic and exothermic reactions. You should already know that endothermic reactions absorb energy and exothermic reactions release energy. So in order to draw the energy flow diagrams, you have to look at the reaction as two specific parts, the system and the surroundings. The system is the main area of focus, which is usually the reactants and products of a chemical reaction. The surroundings is everything else in the universe other than the system, although when drawing the energy flow diagrams, you will have to be a bit more specific about your surroundings. It's important to understand that heat will always flow from the hotter object to the colder object. For example, when describing the heat flow, when you put your hand into an oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, the heat will flow from the oven into your hand. Looking at the opposite of that, when we describe the heat flow, when you put your hand into a freezer at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, the heat will flow from your hand into the freezer. So now let's learn how to draw the energy flow diagrams. For the examples, I will tell you whether they are endothermic or exothermic reactions. When it comes time for you to draw these on a test or a quiz, you will have to decide whether the reaction is endothermic or exothermic. So our first endothermic reaction example is photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is something that requires energy to happen. So our system we want to label will be the plants doing photosynthesis, and the surroundings will be the air around the plants. So since photosynthesis is an endothermic reaction, that means it absorbs energy. So we show that by drawing arrows from the surroundings to the system, showing that the plants are absorbing energy from their surroundings to perform photosynthesis. And the last thing you will have to do is label the reaction as endothermic. Our second endothermic reaction is baking bread. The bread dough must absorb energy in order to bake and become bread. So our system is the bread, and our surroundings would be the oven. So again, it's an endothermic reaction, so we're going to show the arrows showing the heat flow from the surroundings into the system. And again, make sure you label it endothermic. Our first exothermic reaction example is fireworks exploding. We know that fireworks are an exothermic reaction because when they go off, we get a lot of heat, light, and sound that comes out of them. So our system is going to be the fireworks, and the surroundings would be the air around the fireworks. So now that this is an exothermic reaction, it's releasing energy into the surroundings. So our arrows will show the transfer of energy from the system to the surroundings. And our last step is to label the diagram exothermic. Our second exothermic reaction example is making ice cubes. In order for water to go from a liquid state to a solid state, we must remove the heat from the water. So our system is going to be the water, and the surroundings would be the freezer. So your arrows should show the transfer of energy from the system to the surroundings. And again, make sure you label the reaction exothermic. So you now know how to draw energy flow diagram for endothermic and exothermic reactions. When you get to the practice problems, if you're struggling, you can always go back and rewatch any part of this video, or also ask me any questions you have.